The actions taken to date by the president have seriously violated the Constitution, especially when the president says, Article 2 says I can do whatever I want. For the past several months, we have been investigating in our committees and litigating in the courts, so the House can gather all the relevant facts and consider whether to exercise its full Article 1 powers, including a constitutional power of the utmost gravity, approval of articles of impeachment. And this week, the president has admitted to asking the president of Ukraine to take actions which would benefit him politically. The actions of the Trump presidency revealed the dishonorable fact of the president's betrayal of his oath of office, betrayal of our national security, and betrayal of the integrity of our elections.
But what we're looking for is corruption. An investigation started called the Russian witch hunt, affectionately, and it was a total phony scam. It was set up by people within the government to try and stop somebody from getting elected. And after that person, namely me, won, and convincingly won at 306 to 223 in the Electoral College, and then you had the text message on, well, if she doesn't win, we've got an insurance policy. How bad was that? You know, with the insurance policy, that's sort of what has been taking place over the last number of years, the insurance policy. Now, there are a lot of very dishonest people. We're the ones that played it straight. And you know what? The millions of people out there that are looking at what's going on, those people understand it. They see it, and they think it's disgusting. And our people are being hurt, and our country is being hurt. When a Nancy Pelosi allows her position to be taken over by radical far-left socialists, or worse, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
In proceeding with an impeachment against President Trump, the Democrats have stepped in shit. They committed the cardinal sin of starting an impeachment before they had even looked at the evidence. This happened because they are stupid and corrupt. Technically, the Democrats have left themselves a back door, in that they have not actually initiated an impeachment. However, this is typical of the Democrats. They are always too clever by half. No thinking person is going to cut them any slack if they chicken out and then try to explain that the only thing they started was an inquiry into a legitimate concern. No way. Make no mistake about it. They have opened a psychodrama. One side will win and the other side will lose. Let's start somewhere in the middle and work our way back. The authority of Congress to investigate the executive branch is not unlimited. In general, Congress may only investigate matters related to its legitimate legislative functions. This means that its investigative power is generally restricted to areas in which it may legislate or appropriate. Congress is not a law enforcement agency, and the Bill of Rights applies to its investigations. Thus, in order for Congress to conduct an investigation, it must have a satisfactory factual and legal predicate, and it must have probable cause. Further, Congress is merely a co-equal branch of the government. To the extent that Congress seeks to investigate the activities of the executive branch, it must not only have probable cause, it must also overcome executive privilege. It is presumed that all of the president's conversations and correspondence are confidential. It is essential to the decision-making of the executive branch that its members may have free and open discussions without the concern that the deliberations may be made public. As we know, one or more eavesdroppers in the White House breached their employment contracts by leaking information protected by executive privilege to the Democrats, and in particular to Adam Schiff. However, because Schiff obtained this information by illegal means, he could not use it for any lawful purpose. To get around this constitutional barrier, Schiff devised a scheme to cheat, to avoid the rule of law, and to cheat justice itself. Subpart K5A of Section 3033 of Title V of the United States Code is one of the whistleblower laws. It authorizes an employee of the intelligence community, such as a CIA agent, to make a report to the Inspector General of the intelligence community of an urgent concern. Subpart K5G defines an urgent concern as a serious or flagrant problem, abuse, or violation of the law. Notably, a difference of opinion over a public policy issue is not an urgent matter and does not justify a whistleblower complaint. What Schiff did, either alone or most likely in concert with others, is arrange for a CIA agent assigned to the White House to lodge a whistleblower complaint about the information Schiff obtained from the eavesdroppers. This was an unconstitutional effort to legalize the information which he had obtained illegally. This is exactly like the cops making an illegal search of someone's house and then using a snitch to validate any evidence they found. This is one form of what is called parallel construction. It is a common technique used by the government when it cannot make a case if it followed the rules. Schiff referred his snitch to a lawyer with ties to the Clintons and the DNC to prepare a whistleblower complaint. In that complaint, the snitch claimed that he had heard it said that during a telephone call, Trump pressured the president of the Ukraine to take actions to help his 2020 re-election campaign. This included investigating activities of Joe Biden and his son, Hunter Biden. Upon receipt of this complaint, the Inspector General prepared a report for the Director of National Intelligence. In that report, he represented that the snitch claimed that Trump pressured the president of the Ukraine to help him with his 2020 re-election campaign. The Inspector General surmised that this was an urgent matter because it related to potential foreign interference in an election. The odd thing is that the Inspector General did not verify the snitch's claims. Further, he changed the rules related to such claims. The rule used to be that a whistleblower must have first-hand information. However, the Inspector General changed that rule to permit whistleblowers to rely on hearsay. Without an explanation, the Inspector General also found that although the snitch was not a direct witness of any urgent concern, his claims were reliable. The problem with hearsay, and why it is usually not allowed in court, is that it is unreliable. In the course of repeating what other people have said, a story can change. This is as true for adults as it is for third graders who learn this lesson when they play the game of passing a story around the classroom. They learn that the story which is told by the last person to have heard it is very different from the story which the first person heard. When the Inspector General filed his report with the Director of National Intelligence, it was dismissed. The Director of National Intelligence knew what had actually transpired during the telephone call and exercised his legal authority to dismiss the snitch's complaint. This caused Schiff to break more laws. In specific, Schiff leaked the matter to the press, which, as we know, then agitated the matter. This came to a head very quickly with Nancy Pelosi making her dramatic announcement that she was opening an impeachment inquiry. Like the Inspector General, Pelosi and Schiff took it on faith that the story that they had heard said was true. Rather than verify the story quietly and by following ordinary protocols, they plunged headfirst into their charade. The Democrats immediately suffered a devastating blow. Rather than become defensive as Pelosi and Schiff expected, Trump went on the offense. He released the transcript of the telephone call at the center of the controversy. Furthermore, this transcript is the best and most reliable evidence of the telephone call. Indeed, it may be the only relevant evidence. What other people, partisan and not, believe about the telephone call would not assist the individual senators in interpreting the transcript. The material at the center of the controversy is Trump stating to the president of the Ukraine that there's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that, so whatever you can do with the Attorney General would be great. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution. So if you can look into it, it sounds horrible to me. This request indisputably was made in the context of a broader inquiry about ongoing anti-corruption measures of the new government in the Ukraine. This included investigating the extent to which Ukrainian citizens were involved in the Russia collusion hoax related to the 2016 American election. The Ukrainian president acknowledged that these anti-corruption measures were the focus and subject of the conversation. He stated that the issue of the investigation of the case is actually the issue of making sure to restore the honesty, so we will take care of that and will work on the investigation of the case. Personally, I don't see how this discussion affords the inference that Trump was pressuring the Ukrainians to help him with his re-election campaign. To me, it looks exactly like what the plain English implies. Trump was interested in corruption in the Ukraine and in learning what he could of the origins of the Russia collusion hoax. As the chief executive officer of the United States, it is within the president's authority to inquire about crimes and to be apprised of ongoing investigations. This includes investigations of criminal conspiracies in which various Democrats may have been involved. If those investigations end up informing the voters, that is a coincidence, not inextricably the purpose. The answer to those concerned about such coincidences is not that such investigations must not be undertaken or that Trump must be impeached, but for Democrats not to commit crimes. For those who may draw the opposite inference from the transcript, which I consider irrational and unreasonable, there is an obvious point of law they must reconcile. President Trump is presumed innocent. Moreover, by constitutional law, this is evidence in his favor. The way this presumption works in this case is that where the evidence affords two equally reasonable inferences, one pointing to guilt and the other to innocence, the one pointing to innocence must be adopted. As I said, no thinking person could infer from the transcript that Trump was pressuring the Ukraine for anything, let alone for help with his re-election. However, at best, the resistance has a tie, and by our laws, the tie goes to Trump. This is the end of the case. Legally, this case is dead in the water. Unfortunately, it's not the end of the bullshit. In closing, let's hear from our favorite ghoul one more time.
On the final day of the Constitutional Convention in 1787, when our Constitution was adopted, Americans gathered on the steps of Independence Hall to await the news of the government our founders had crafted. They asked Benjamin Franklin, "What do we have, a republic or a monarchy?" Franklin replied, "A republic if you can keep it. Our responsibility is to keep it."
It is laughable to hear the Democrats claim that they honor the Constitution and the rule of law, and that it is this honor which is motivating their efforts to remove Trump from office. At the very core of their activities is illegally obtained evidence. Compounding their violation of settled constitutional principle is the fact that the Democrats are using classical techniques of propaganda to deceive the resistance about the state of the evidence, all to drag the country into an impeachment which the Democrats quite obviously cannot win. This country has real problems. We are bankrupt, the military is overextended, the borders are collapsing, and our resources are being pillaged. In short, the empire is crumbling, and the Democrats' only answer is a ridiculous sideshow. If the Democrats weren't so inept, the public would be right to be frightened. As it is, a degree of alarm is warranted. A government actor's fantasy about the demands of justice does not and may never excuse him from obeying the law. If a government actor cannot make a case legally, he must let it go. Cheating must never be tolerated. Tolerating cheating only invites sociopaths like Adam Schiff to piss on everything America is supposed to stand for.